It is great to have you here, Ruben Alvarez. Did I say
Yes,
that correctly?
that's exactly
Yes,
it.
yes,
100%. Nailed
yes.
it.
Entrepreneur, creative genius, creator, podcast host, and you have a couple of bad dad jokes for us today.
I do. Yeah. I am father of two kids now, so they just get worse. Every kid that
Does
we
it-
have, it just gets worse.
I mean, do you have plans for more? More
No, no,
kids?
that's it. That's it for us.
That's it.
It's
That's it. That's it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. You have a few, and then you realize one takes up like let's say 20% of your time,
mhm.
two takes up 100% of your time. So it's like it's a
Oh,
big difference
okay.
from one
It
to
goes
two.
exponentially.
Yes.
Yeah. And what's your story? What's your story?
Yeah, the main story basically is, was born, raised without a father, not that much. Like we weren't lacking, let's say, food. We were never poor. Like not poor where we're hungry and can't eat, but
Mm,
still single family home, growing up in a trailer park, and I just always thought and assumed that I could have more if I became more. Right. Like it was just a very
mm,
basic concept that I'm like, dude, other people have more. And I'm very rational. I don't know if that's, from my physical biological side or whatever, but I always just saw like a plus b equals c type of thing, right? So like math, I I graduated high school with like a 2.1 or 1.7 GPA or something like that. A plus in math every single year, right?
mm,
Because I understood it, you know what I mean? Like it was something that actually interested me.
mm,
So I always had that, like if I can be more, I can have more, I can do more type of thing. And so I went into culinary when I was like 18 or something like that, and then I realized that that just wasn't for me. And then I went into like the sit down job when I was 21 to manufacturing.
mm,
I became a sales rep. Again, I had no experience in it at all, but like I just kept just saying yes to everybody. So within 3 months, I became a sales rep of a company that I barely understood the product.
mm,
I got along with the owner. Owner couldn't get along with anyone else. I stayed there
mm,
for 4 years, became a sales manager. I thought I was gonna make partner. The freaking owner ends up selling the company at like age 28. I was like age 28 or something like that, and
mm.
then I just decided to start my own business from there because he just said, "Hey, good job. Here's a little check. Here's a bonus. Go
Mm,
figure everything out."
mm. How long were you with that company?
About 9 years.
Oh
Yeah, eight,
wow.
9 years. Yeah, yeah. So
Oh
like
wow.
at 20 is when I started.
Oh wow.
2021.
Yeah, so there you were thinking partner, 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 like sleep, wake up, eat, partner, 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 and the guy he had the different plans. He had different plans for you.
Yeah, the writing was kind of on the walls to begin
Mm,
with,
mm,
but a lot of the times we don't see past what we want in
mm,
order to see that, right? Because a lot of the times he was saying that he hated the company, he hated the business, he hated what it did to his family, he hated the customers, right? Like everything.
mm,
And so it was on the wall that he just didn't like the business. The business could have made him, because we were doing like 14 million in revenue a year, right?
mm,
The business
mhm.
could have made him 100 million. He still would have sold it at some
We
point.
sold the company either way. But how much were you making a year?
Yeah, at that one,
Hmm.
I was like at 80.
No, no, I'm like the company.
Oh, the like what they were doing a year was like 14 million in revenue.
Oh wow. Um, so but before that, like you mentioned not growing up with a father. Like how was that? Like how did that affect you?
The biggest issue is that my father's alive.
Okay.
My father has health, right? And my
Mm,
father had a job. Like so it's he wasn't unstable by any
mm,
means. You know what I mean?
mm.
The biggest issue is that he would promise that he would come see us and then he wouldn't.
You wouldn't. Mm,
Right. So it was more of a feeling of one, we're with our mom. Two,
mm,
we're unwanted. Three,
mm,
we have promises that people don't keep to us.
mm,
So it was more difficult in the psychological aspect than in the money,
actual
right? Again, we
presence. Mm,
yeah, yeah, we lived in a mobile home park. Like we were again, like I just want to make that clear. Like
mm,
we didn't grow up with like privilege or anything, but still it was when I look back at it, the money was tight and it was difficult, but the psychological part I think was more difficult for me.
was more difficult. Mm. And how did you heal from that? Most people never do.
So I leaned into my father for a while, right? When I
Mm,
was older, like 18 to
mm,
21, I was living with him.
mm,
And even to this day, like we really don't talk just
mm,
because of his own stuff.
mm,
Right. And I just realized like it has nothing to do with me. At some point I just had to realize it has nothing to do with me.
mm,
I heard that my father, his father died when he was like 5 years old. So
mm,
I just started seeing like again, I'm a patterns person, right? Like I see why things make sense. And then when I
mm,
realized, okay, well, he didn't have a father, he doesn't know how to be a father. He
mm,
kind of just led into his own ambitions, which a lot of people, when we look back at like, our the generation before mine, I don't know if that's generation X or Z or whatever it is, right? But like I'm a millennial, so the generation before me, my parents,
mm,
there wasn't a big wave of learning like there is right now, right? Like for
mm,
me, it's big, like YouTube and learning and
yeah.
books and all that stuff, right? So at some point, I just have to realize that they didn't have the same advantages that were available to me right now.
Mm,
And because of that, like I just don't actively say like I was hurt and my father sucks and all this stuff. I
mm,
just say, hey,
mm,
he has his own stuff that he needs to deal with, and if he deals
mm,
with it at some point, like I'm here.
mm. Wow. And becoming a father as well would really also help you heal, because you realize I'm actually not perfect, but I mean, we it's not about
Yeah,
perfection. It's about, the person that you become and the tools that have helped you become that person.
exactly,
Mm.
exactly.
So, what are some tools or people or influences? I'm sure you didn't wake up one day and go, I want to be more, right? Probably, but like there's probably encounters that happen along your way. What were some of those encounters?
The earliest one I remember is we were living in there's like these towns that are a little bit more privileged, and then like you cross a bridge and then there's like the normal town. So I
Mm,
grew up in the city of Orange, but like right on the cusp of the border of Villa Park, right?
mm,
So my schooling was in Villa Park, which was the higher, more expensive houses, the people that have like the Fortune 500 company type jobs, right? So I
mm,
went to school with a lot of those people, and the
mm,
earliest memory I have is we had a small, I don't know, 800 square foot trailer or something like that, right?
mm,
I ended up going to somebody's house for a project. The girl's room was as big as our house.
mm,
And I was just like, it was embarrassing, but not really embarrassing, but more
mhm,
embarrassing, eye opening,
mm,
right? That it's weird to go with and be in proximity of people that have so much
mm,
and know that they're human,
mhm,
that there's no difference, right? Like, and I never considered myself to be dumb. I think mathematics really showed me that, that I'm just like,
mhm.
okay, I know how to figure out one of the most
I can figure
complex
this.
things
I
that
can
people
figure these things
hate.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm like, I understand geography and all these other things. I just don't like them.
Mm,
So when I understood, hey, I like one of the most complex things that people don't like, that means I'm probably smart. That means that I
mm,
can probably do these other things too. I just need to
mm,
figure out how to do them.
mm,
And that was one of the main things that I saw. And then the other thing is, you know what? I'm actually noticing a pattern right now as we're
yeah.
talking. When I went into culinary school, um, I went and I was working at Google, not for Google, but at Google in
I
their
Google.
cafe because they sub hire.
Mm-hmm.
And when you work in proximity again of those people, right? They were engineers. They were probably making like 150 to 250,000 a year type of thing, right?
Yeah.
All driving Teslas, very nice cars. And I'm
Mm,
like, dude, I'm 20. No, I was like 20 at that time or something like that.
mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I'm making 15 an hour. I drive a crap car.
Mm,
And then I would listen to the conversations they have,
mm,
and they were telling such bad, like I have bad dad jokes, right?
mm-hmm.
But their forms of joking to me were very immature and childish, right? So
Mm.
like there'd be three people in a circle, and then they'd be making fun of their one friend, and they're like, huh, John's as bad as the M23 virus. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
these guys are beating me.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. I'm like,
Mm,
these people are beating me.
mm,
And so I got to a point where I was like, I need more. Like I can't be 15 and like, which was good at the time, right?
mm,
15 an hour. Most people are like, oh, dude, that was, what, 6 years ago when nobody was thinking of 15 an hour.
mm,
And I was like, this sucks. Like just knowing that they're driving better cars than me, they're making more than me, they're working less than me, they have a happier life.
mm,
At least it seemed like, right?
mm.
They get treated better. They work in one of the best places in the world. And I know I could do that, but I wasn't.
You weren't. Mm. On what was the reason for that? The fact that you weren't.
In that time period, the biggest issue that I had was there's this saying, right? When people end high school or college or whatever it is,
Mm,
it's almost like you're thrown out of a boat, right? In the middle of the ocean. And there's two things you can do. Boat leaves, you're there in the ocean. You can either stay right where you're at, because you're like, dude, if they could come back, that boat could come back, they could feel bad, and you start having all this doubt, and you're like, or if I swim in the north direction, then there could be a shark that way. If I make too much, something will come and eat me. There's all
Mm,
these things that you could be thinking of,
mm,
or you just pick a direction and you hope that there's land that way,
mm,
right?
mhm,
And most people, they get stuck in that uncertain state. And that's where I was at. I was like, I know I can do better, but what's better? What can I do? What if I leave this job? What if it's a worse job?
mm,
Nobody's hiring me. I put out 2 resumes yesterday. Nobody called me back. All uncertainty, right?
mm,
And until you can make that decision, I think nothing changes. And that's what I've learned from all this stuff that I've done, is like, you just pretty much have to say yes, make the decision, test it out. That's why I think marketing really fits for what I do, right? Because it's
mm,
like, basically you put something out there and it works, and you're like, why did it
mm.
work? Right. And
Why
then
did it
you
work?
put
Yeah.
something out this way and it doesn't work, and you're like, why
Mm,
didn't that work? So it's pretty
yes.
much all, why does it work or why does it not,
Yes. I mean, some of my peers would argue against this, but I really believe marketing is testing. Like, we only know what works as long as it is working. We don't know
Yeah.
when it's going to stop working. I mean, there are fundamental laws, right?
Yeah.
However, like, who knows the next platform? Like, who knows the next big thing or whatever that is going to be? Who knows the next like, even advertising right now is taking different forms, so who knows the next thing? Like, advertising was not what it is today. So marketing, to me at least, is testing. You know.
Yeah.
Um.
And it's being able to basically make things work, right? Like, one of the biggest issues that we have is, a customer of ours, they're in the optics space for rifles, right?
Hmm,
So that's not against Facebook standards, but because it's associated with a firearm, we're not able to
mhm,
advertise it.
hmm.
So I've had to find really creative ways around
Around
their
that.
rules,
Hmm,
right? To be able to say, hey, look, we got banned on all ads, right? And
hmm,
every month we get banned on ads. And then I'm like, I found a way in. And then
hmm.
we get banned again. I'm like, dude, I found another way
I
in, right?
found a way. Yeah.
And you just keep being able to, like you said, test what works, test what doesn't. You feel like you failed this month, and then all of a sudden you have something new, a new idea came, a new creative, you made a new video, and it just blows up again. So you have to be able to have that resilience to be able to win.
To be able to win. So you went into the sales job. Everybody picks different things from sales. I did 4 sales jobs, and 2 of them were door to door. What I picked from sales for me was what I call the last door.
Mm,
Realizing that typically when you're knocking from door to door, we perform better in the like when it's the last door, because that's like the last door. If you get this sale, because typically you a bad day would be one. Like, you don't want to have zero, right? Like, a
mhm.
bad day would be one. So if you've had like zero that day or only one, you want to, like, this last door, and we really give it all we can. Like, we pitch differently and we do things differently. So what I started realizing was, okay, what can I take from the psychology of the last door and have it throughout the
Mm.
entire 120 doors we were knocking that day? What did you pick from sales for you?
For me, it was, and I think that that's why I've shifted from sales and then to marketing and then advertising, and now the main thing is brand, right?
Brand. Mhm.
My main thing of sales is, I hate the cold, right? Like, the cold outreach is the worst, because there's more convincing, there's more deals that you have to make, there's more
Mm,
desperation, there's more creativity that goes into, right? Like, you're knocking on the first door and nobody knows you. You have to be
nobody
like,
knows me.
hey, how's it going? My name's blah blah blah. Like that dude that's like, I can clean, and then he starts cleaning right in front of them. Like, there's so much of that goes into it. But instead, if you were going door to door and you're Coca-Cola, right? Everybody knows Coca-Cola.
Everybody knows.
Hey, I got Coke. I got a 6 pack right now. It's $1.50, which is what it normally costs.
Yeah.
Would you like to buy 6 packs? They're just like, well, I don't need 6 packs, but yeah, Coke sounds great. Give me
Yeah.
3 packs, right? So
Mm,
it's very
mm,
easy. So I always understood from sales, it's like, hey, how can I make people basically do the work for me, or how can I make the work be done for me, so that way I just go in there and then show them the product and everything's done.
and everything's already done. Powerful.
So with branding, everybody, like, a lot of times people want to see a result in dollars,
Hmm.
right? And some people want to see it in time.
Mm.
So with branding, it's like you can put a lot of time in, which basically saves you time on the outside, right? Instead of a
Mm-hmm.
customer, hey, my name's Ruben. I put something out in front of you, and then I have to follow up with you 2 months later, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I put in, maybe 2 weeks of content prior to that, and then you reach out to me, we close on the same day,
Mm.
right?
Wow.
The other thing is, if I now say, hey, nobody's ever heard of me, I come to you and I go, hey, we do the world's best, logos or something like that. And
Mm.
it's like, all right, how much is it? And it's like, it's $300. You're gonna be like, absolutely not, right? I can give
Mm.
you $50 because I've never heard of you, and then
Never
I
heard
don't know
of it
what
before.
work you're
Yeah.
gonna do.
Mm.
But instead, if I start making 2 weeks prior and I go, like, let's say on LinkedIn, and I start talking about logo design, the psychology of it, and basically just establish the presence. By the
Mm.
time you say, hey, you know what? I've been seeing you. I need a logo. What's it going to cost? I'm
What's
like,
it
it's
gonna cost?
$300. They're
Mm.
like, that makes sense. That sounds reasonable. Let's go ahead and do it with you.
Mm.
Right. They don't
Mm.
think about the other guy that comes in and says $100, because the other guy is doing the same thing. You've never heard of me. Here's $100. You're risking, versus the guy that you've been seeing, that you already established within the
Lovely.
last 2 weeks what he does, and then he just
Mm.
says, hey, here's my price, and you go, absolutely, let me give you my card.
Hmm. I think a good example would be in Milan. I'm not sure, but now in Milan in Italy, when I used to be there as a student, they were guys who would be able to get. They were not knockoffs, like the actual like luxury shoes, like leather belt and bags and all of that. They'll be selling it in the metro like station, like right, and they did not speak much. What they just do is they just come and they just show you like this, you know, and you saw the logo, you saw the thing, and you went and you go, like quanto costa, like how much is that? They just call you to the corner and you start talking about price, and you
Yep.
just start looking at, oh, this is actually the real stuff. Like they didn't speak much, like they just showed it to you, right? And that's kind of like what you're saying. Like, I think one of the biggest takeaway from what you just said for me is branding saves you time in the long run.
It saves you time in the long run, and it allows you to charge more.
It allows you
Like
to charge
it
more.
allows you to charge more. And I think that that's the part that people don't understand is, do you want to charge $100 like everybody else, or do you want to say my price is 300? And people have been conditioned prior to coming to you to
Mm,
think this guy is a premium service, that
mm.
when you give them your price, they go, that's out of budget. And then you might have to go, oh, well, you know what, whatever, 2 payments. And they're like, that's in budget again. Or they might go, oh, it's out of budget. And then you're like, okay, well, you know what, I can't do it for any less. And they go, but I've already established that you're the one that can do it. And you're the only one that I trust.
Yes,
And
yes,
I've
yes, yeah.
already been so invested in you that here's the $300 anyway.
Mm,
So it's it's all work that's done prior.
prior.
You look at Lamborghini, you look at the Bugattis and everything, right? They don't have to say, hey, we'll do 300,000. They
Mm,
don't put out ads and stuff. They basically just put out a great product,
mm,
and then other people talk about it for them. They
mm-hmm.
let the indirect stuff talk for them,
Talk
right?
for them. Yeah.
They never say, hey, come buy a Bugatti. They just say, here's what the Bugatti does. They just start putting out information, right? And
Yes.
it's the same thing with us. The more information, the more valuable we can become prior to a sale, the faster
Mhm.
the sale will be.
The faster will work for you. So you've gone through different progressions. From sales, you went into marketing. What was that like? What was your work in marketing? What was that?
So in the manufacturing company, I was doing primarily sales and sales manager, and then all of a sudden it became like we started doing email campaigns, and we started
Mm-hmm.
doing Facebook, and we started
Mm,
doing all these things. And again, in that space that I was in, it wasn't business to consumer. It was a business to business product that then was later resold to the consumer by a distribution, right?
mm,
So we were selling to the same people over and over.
mm,
When we sent out email campaigns, it was both to our internal people, right? Like the people that were already selling our product, and
mm,
then to their customers.
mm,
So we had two types of marketing that we had, which is more of like here's what you can buy this month, or here's what new has come out. And then it was trying to sell it to those people who we couldn't sell directly to. It was more of just like, here's how it's interesting, go ask the people that sell it to you, right? Type of thing.
mm.
So it's very out of the box, like not 50% off today type of sales.
Mm-hmm.
Not like time's running out, product is running out, because we're making it. How are we gonna have product running out?
Yeah.
So you have to think like outside the box.
Mm,
And then when I left that company, I started a social media marketing agency, which is the Marketing Hunters. That's what we thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But what ends up happening is, again, I don't want to compete, right? Like I want to charge higher prices. And the problem with social media marketing agencies, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but basically Grant Cardone, Ty Lopez, all these people that are like, trying to help people with their side hustles, they go start an SMMA,
Yes,
social media
yes,
marketing agency.
yes. I was in that for a little bit as well. Yeah.
So what happens is, I have experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some people that will start it, they don't start it with the experience. They started just because they were told to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm competing with people. I want to charge 1,000 to 1,500 a month for social media marketing, right?
Marketing,
For
yeah.
as a retainer for people to come month over month.
Yes.
Other people want to survive and they're charging 500 a month
500.
for the same things.
Mm.
My stuff looks good and professional, but I just started off, so I'm competing with them. I'm like, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. Right. So I'm like, what else can we do? So then we offer other things. We're like, all right, we got website design, we got logo design, we got social media marketing agency. I started getting into PR and I made the connections with the people to get people published.
Mm.
And I think there's other services that I'm missing, but I can't remember them. So
Mm.
then I'm like, all right, we have a full portfolio. And then from there, I'm like, okay, well, people are asking us for ads and marketing and results and all this stuff.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay, that right there would turn me into a leads company more than anything, right? Because a marketing company is supposed to get you interest in the form of like people thinking of buying, but we're not your sales team that closes the thing, right? And
Yes.
we're also not an ads company, even though I do run ads for my, like I said, that the rifle company, right? I do
Mm.
know how to run ads, but I don't want to be running 20 ads per month, right? Because
Mm.
that's an ads company.
Mm.
So I'm like, what can I do at this point? I'm like, okay, well, what I'm very good at is I know how to get people interested in other people.
Mm.
And then that way, once you get the scheduled meeting with them and you tell them it's $3,000 for 2 months, they're like, I got to do it, So I'm like, okay, what am I then? And that's where it became a very specialized branding company.
Mm-hmm.
To where now we say, hey, look, we're going to get your image right. We're going to get everything right. If you want us to run a few ads, we can do that so that way your name gets out there.
Mm.
But, we know how to make people look good on TikTok. We know how to make them good look on Reels. We know how to make the profile of an Instagram look like an influencer versus just an everyday person.
Mm-hmm.
We know how to make the website flow basically as your primary point to where your whole brand stands out. That way we can get the website and then it triggers to all your other social media platforms. That way you have a unified message.
Mm.
We know how to make manufacturers stand out so that way they can raise their prices without anybody barking at them.
Mm.
That's what we're good at. And it's an evolution that pretty much we've gone through, that I've seen a lot of other companies go through, until you find what your real strength is. And then once you're there, it takes off.
Mm. Um, I mean, many different experts have come up with different definitions for what a brand is or what branding is. What is branding to you?
See, branding to me is a long piece of metal that has an insignia at the end, a logo, if you will. And they get that, they put it in heat, they wait till it's really, really hot, and then they burn that into something,
Into something.
right?
Mm.
Because that's what it was. They used to
That's
burn
that's
their
what it was.
insignia
Yeah,
to
that's where it
cows,
started
right?
from. Yes.
But when you think about it that way, it's not the cute logo color explanation that everybody gives you, right? Like you got to
No.
have your colors and your, the 5 things you put. No, it's not that.
Mm.
It's you have to be willing to burn something into your image, burn
Mm.
something into your skin. Like if you were walking around with something burned on your head that said like mediocre postings,
Mm.
mediocre content, nobody
Mm.
would walk around with that.
Yeah.
So you have to really think like what is the brand? And if you're not
Mm.
willing to like figuratively have it burned into you,
Into you. Mm.
then it's not that great, right? You have to
Mm.
let it go.
Mm.
And it's a combination of all the stuff that we talked about. Yes, it's your logo, your colors, it's the things that you relate to, it's the people, it's the the website, it's the social media, it's the posts, it's the consistency, the ambitious things that you post that make you look better. It's all that. But
Mm.
ultimately, if you're not willing to have those things burned into you and walk around with them,
Mm.
then it's not really a brand.
It's not really a brand. Oh wow. So you have to be willing to let it be burned into. Like, what mark would you like to carry on your head? Yeah.
Mine. So part of the initial steps of like people are like, where do I start with my brand, right? It's funny that you say that. Like, what would I want in my head? Because I think words are probably the most important thing. So I always tell people like, if you're starting with your brand, pick your 3 words,
Words. Mm.
right? The 3 words that like if somebody was like, hey, who is Ruben? Ruben's not in the room, but you can only describe him in 3 words.
Three
What would
words.
those 3 words be?
Mm,
Right. And that's a good exercise because now like, okay, I have to live my life by these 3 words, right?
mm,
So I think the word that I wouldn't mind having on the top of my head would be ambitious. Like if people are like, oh,
mm,
that dude's ambitious, because they're gonna look at me and they're gonna be like,
mm,
this dude's ambitious. He's gonna want a lot from me, right?
mm,
But then I'm gonna have to live up to that.
mm,
So I either live up to it or I get it the hell off my head.
mm,
And that's pretty much how it works. It's like you have to think, what do I want to actually live by? Because
mhm.
that's what people are gonna know you by, and then you have to live up to it.
You have
And
to
if you
live up
can't
to
live
it.
up to it, you better get rid of it.
Hmm. So now you're thinking from that whole inscription, that whole. I mean, we're probably speaking a different language because we understand the history of where branding is coming from.
Yeah.
Um, would you mind, sharing a little bit about the history of branding? Just
Well,
just where it's coming from.
yeah, no,
Mm,
God, what's the book? The Ultimate Sales Machine. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like a red book with like the gears on it and stuff.
mm,
So when Clubhouse started, the app Clubhouse, right?
mm-hmm,
His daughter, I forgot what his name is, but his daughter was in a room with us,
mm,
right? In a Clubhouse room. And one, like, a great book, by the way, if anybody wants to pick it up, The Ultimate Sales Machine. But
mm,
his daughter was in the book, and then we were talking about personal branding, and she's like,
mm,
my dad said that like in the 70s he was going around talking in all these places,
mm,
and there was no such thing as a brand. Like, the
mm,
brand was your advertise. You were hiring advertising companies to show your business, but there was no word.
mm,
And that's why I think it's become so popular nowadays, because basically there was nothing that people were really like living by, right? But
mm,
they still had a brand. There was just no word for it. They were going out doing public speaking. Hey, that's the guy that's a public speaker. That guy talks about this. This is who he
yeah.
is, right?
Mm,
So eventually, I think it was like early 2000s is when the word like brand actually came up, and it was like a branding thing, right? To where it's like you separated what you were putting out there, and it was more precise of like, does it actually mean anything? And that's where mission statements came for in companies too, right? Because
mm,
a mission statement, before I truly understood it, I was like, this is garbage, this is stupid.
mhm,
But when a mission statement is good, it allows your people to know to stay your company on brand. So that means
mm,
if your company is like, hey, our mission statement is we treat every customer with respect,
mm,
even if they aren't treating us with respect, that means that if somebody's cursing you out, you have to basically take it, right?
mhm.
But if your people aren't aligning with that, then you know that they
Exactly.
don't belong at your company. So there
Mhm,
was this big movement of like saying, hey, look, like, we were just a business. Now we want to have like an actual image. So let's go ahead and have a mission statement. Let's go ahead and hire somebody just for the brand.
mhm,
And I think within the last 4 years is when I first saw it, the word personal brand became a thing.
mhm.
And I think the word personal brand is not deceptive, it's a little dangerous,
Yeah, it's
right?
dangerous ground to play.
Because anybody can talk about it.
Mm,
So it's not really psychological based. It's not really based on like a study. It's more based on a person, right? So I'm a realtor. Let's say I'm a realtor.
mm,
And I'm like, this is what worked for me. It'll work for you. Buy my $10,000 course.
mm,
Not based on anything other than you and your success.
mm,
Right. So Tony Robbins is really good because he started studying like NLP, like the stuff that's beneath everything else. And then he started talking to psychologists. He started going and like learning a lot of different things. And that's where his stuff stems on now. Most people don't realize that like he actually knows his stuff. You know what I mean? Like he
mm,
actually took a ton of years to like study what he's talking about. If he just had gone out there and been like, hey, you know what? I got rid of my addictions and I know how to get rid of every single person's addictions in the world, it would be bad, right? He'd be laughed at and people would still be like, that guy's not real. He's a phony.
mm,
But that's where most of his credibility came from. And I think that that's why right now we see a lot of people talking about their personal brand and everything. And
mm,
that's where you get a lot of the washed down, like, oh, I can teach you about personal brands. Pick your 3 colors and, choose a few words. And what are you going to post 5 times a week and get a calendar? And it's like, dude, that helps you with your personal brand,
mm,
but it's not as serious. Like you have to be 100% serious if you want to be taken as a real legitimate brand, because ultimately if you might say, oh, what are your 3 colors, and people are going to love you for and blah blah blah, that doesn't help you make more money,
mm,
right? That just helps you attract better people, but the people might not be qualified.
mhm,
So if I'm like, dude, I want to charge $1,000 per person, right? And it's like, oh, we'll pick your 3 colors, hot pink, right, yellow,
Yeah.
and orange. And it's like, dude,
Mm,
that's the most like horrible combination of colors you've ever picked. Plus, psychologically, it doesn't instill trust in you,
Mm,
right? If you like blue, you should probably go with blue, right? Like that
mm,
instills confidence.
mm,
So you have to know what you don't know. And a
mm,
lot of the times it's more or less this worked for me. I'm charging $500 an hour or something like that. You can charge $500 an hour. But if you want to charge 2,000 an hour, if you want to get public speaking gigs, that might not work for you. That might not
mm,
work for a personal brand.
mm. So when it comes to personal brand, do you shy away from the word, or you simply just have a different approach altogether to the word?
I don't mind helping people with their personal brands. My biggest thing is I want to make money through my business. I don't want to make money through the individual,
Mm,
right? So if somebody's like, "Hey, do you do consulting?" I'm like, dude, if it's longer than 30 minutes, because I can give you a lot in 30 minutes. If it's
mm,
longer than 30 minutes, it'll be like 1,000 for the month. You'll get four. And then they're like, oh, well, I only need two. No, dude, like that's what it is.
mm,
I can help you in 30 minutes. I can tell you exactly what you need to do. You just need to go out and do it. you
yeah,
know?
I agree. Mm,
Um, so I'm not really looking for that. What I'm looking for is I'm looking to work with businesses. I'm looking to work with people that I can make a bigger impact with, right?
mhm,
Because I believe that the personal brand is more or less common knowledge, and it falls into three things
mm,
basically. You have to be consistent, you have to be ambitious, and you have to have people see you win. So consistent means post regularly,
mhm,
have people see you regularly. You show
mm.
up on a magazine, show up once a month on every magazine. That's enough. That's consistent.
Yeah, yeah.
You're going to be posting, post 5 times a week, post three
Mm,
times a week, post on your stories daily, let
mm,
people see you.
mm.
That doesn't really get people to be like, I want to buy from this guy, and I want to, they just go, okay, I know of this guy,
Of this
right?
guy, yeah.
Ambitious, you have to have really, really good content. You have to show people like, oh man, this guy's a go-getter. This guy's always doing something, right?
Yeah.
He's always trying to outdo himself.
Mm.
Still, you might think, oh, dude, that's good. People might be, they might be impressed with you. They might want to
Impressed with
buy.
that, yeah.
That doesn't allow you to charge more, and that doesn't still allow you to be able to say, hey, you know what, let's close the deal today. What
Mm,
allows you to do that is the last part, which is you got to let people see you win. So I could be posting every day. I could be saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to do a public speaking engagement.
mm.
You show the video of the public speaking engagement, there's two people that showed up.
Yeah.
Nobody's impressed.
Yeah.
Nobody wants you to do public speaking again, right?
Mm-hmm.
You say, hey, you know what, my company just launched a course. You do 10 sales. It's a $7 course at $70. Nobody's going to buy your next course,
Yeah.
right? So you have to have those three things in combination of each other to
Mm,
be able to say this is what actually works.
mm,
And for a personal brand, like I said, it's not hard. Post every day, outdo yourself, and then actually give the result and make it big and show
mm.
people that you can, whatever you say you're gonna do, and you're gonna do it right.
You're gonna do it. Yes. I think somebody says branding is key, like today in today's world. Again, branding is one of those things like people have different definitions for, right? He says it's really keeping a promise over a period of time. That when you're able to do that, like able to sustain that, that builds everything for you. Like even when your logo sucks, even when your colors or no colors, like I've been able to be like comes back to the consistency, ambition, and what's the third thing you mentioned?
Winning.
Winning. They want to see you win.
They need to
Mm.
see you, and they
They,
need to
they, they need
see.
to see you win.
Yep. If I say like my biggest one right now, which I think I have the most respect for, is YouTube, and I'm not doing it like massively, right? But
Mm,
I'm more of the winner of the everyday person,
mm,
because my YouTube channel has been going on for 2 years. The same time I started, right when the podcast started, and I was doing podcasting clips, and then I realigned because like I had a problem with buying electronics. So I
mm,
was like, how can I not use my money? So then basically I started doing a YouTube channel where I reviewed the electronics, and I would get the electronics and now I can write them off, right?
mm,
So I started doing that. The first 8 months before I did that, like no views, like 800, 900 views, right?
mm,
After I did that and I turned over, in a year, I got 100,000 views.
mm,
And then in these last 6 months, I've gotten another 100,000 views. So my channel right now is at 208,000 views. I'm
mm,
at 4,340 subscribers or something like that.
mm.
Last month, in June, I stopped doing it because it's not, there's other things that require my time, and I'm
Fine.
not making
Yes.
enough money on YouTube.
Mm,
But last month I didn't post one video,
mm,
and I made $100 on the ad revenue that I'm getting on YouTube.
YouTube. Oh wow.
So it's the everyman's dream that like not like, you know, the people that are like, I want to get, you know, rich on YouTube in a year, right? But the people
Mm,
that are like, hey, I would like to start a YouTube and then 10 years from now say that like it went to 100,000 or a million or something like that. That's
mm,
where it's pretty much going.
mm,
So I set out to say, hey, I'm gonna be a tech reviewer, which is really hard nowadays, right?
mm,
I said I'm gonna get monetized and I'm gonna make revenue while not doing anything, and I've pretty much accomplished those three things.
mm,
So you have to find the everyday person's dream that they can get behind and go like, I've always wanted to do that. This guy's doing it, and
mm,
then he actually did it.
mm. Now, when you look at what great brands are, I mean, and people have different definitions of that, right? What do you think makes great? Like, what don't we know about great brands, or what don't people know about great brands?
They invest heavy amounts of money back into the brand itself.
What does that mean?
Uh, so one of my good friends, a person that I interviewed on my show, his name is Josh Snow,
Mm-hmm.
right? He has a product called Snow Teeth Whitening, which is like, you know, the glow ones that you plug into your phone and now they like glow or whatever.
Yeah.
He was one of the first people that started that, and he basically took it and made a name for it. So
Oh.
he's rivaling Colgate right now. He like basically just saw there's two places, there's Colgate and then there's the other one, and then that's it. And he's like, nobody's trying to do it's the strips. I hate the strips. You know what I mean?
Mm,
So most people would think, hey, you know what? I'm gonna grow the business by running ads, by doing all this stuff,
mm.
right? Do you know what he did?
What did he do?
He invested like I think he went negative a lot of the time, and he
Mm,
invested in celebrities to promote his product.
mm.
So his brand basically became celebrities using a product that nobody's heard of. So he
Mm,
got like Robert Gronkowski, I forgot what the guy's name is from the
mm,
Patriots or something like that.
mm,
He's got in the Jenner, you know, like the mom Jenner and then Kaylee Jenner and all them like to actually post stories about it, like not
yeah.
like a 5 second story, but be like, oh my god, this is so cool, look what I got, and then they would open it, and he would make these custom packages for them,
Mm,
right? To where like it would open almost like a space shuttle, like, right, and then it would have lights on the inside that were like blue, and then they would pull it out and it'd be an experience. They didn't
mm,
make them for anyone else, just for those people,
mm.
but he consistently just kept reinvesting
Back
back the
to
experience, the brand, the
but
people who's
mm,
seeing it, who's doing
mm,
it, right? It goes back to the same things. They're seeing you win. So I'm telling you,
mm,
the personal one is very easy. The
mm.
business one is a little bit more difficult because you have to really, really like $10,000 on a promise that some celebrity is going to talk about it for a minute. What's it going to do for you,
Mm,
right? When you're a personal brand, you could say, hey, you know what? Let me hire a photographer, and my pictures are going to look better, and people are going to think it's great,
mm,
right? That's already you winning. And then the
mm,
next week, hey, you know what? Let's hire a videographer. We'll go to like Miami for like a day, and they'll watch me like talk to people and change some lives. Boom. That's
mm,
another one, right? So
mm,
it's not that hard. It's not that difficult to be exponentially growing up.
mhm,
For businesses, you gotta if you want to go big at some point, you're gonna have to drop $10,000 on your brand. If it's a
mm,
personal brand, you have to
mm.
figure out what that looks like and what
What
that
that
means
is.
and what's gonna give you the best return.
What's going to give you the best return? And one of the things I've also realized is that the 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 the, the, there are certain people who do not care about their personal brand. You know, not care. Let's take an Elon Musk for example. Like he
Mhm.
would he I don't think he ever sat down to go, you know what, I want to my personal brand to be like. He focused on a great company, great product, the experience of that, and make and consistently over time, and constantly figuring out ways to win, and his ambitious is off the chart, right? And based on that, the brand itself is personal brand because it's the person behind it, right? So erupted from that. So what do you think about the approach of going through the business product, or saying, you know what, I'm going to put my name first, and the product and business can come after that? What do you think about both words?
There's two ways, right? Like, because you can Grant Cardone does the opposite, where
Mm-hmm.
he's the face of the company, and then you have
Mm,
Elon, who's not the face of the company,
mm,
right? But when you look at it, you know that Tesla truck, the one
mm-hmm.
that everybody was like, it's ugly, it's stupid, I like it, I think it's great, right? That one,
Mm,
that's brand.
mm,
That's
mm,
all brand.
mm,
I don't think I think he's made a few, right? But like it was primarily just for show. It was to get people talking about him in the business, right?
Mm,
So he invested very, very large into making a car that probably won't come out or hasn't come out, right?
mm,
All of it is just to get attention to come back to you.
mm.
But a lot of the times it's like if you don't have an idea, you're gonna have to invest in order to have that idea that's gonna push the brand
That's
up.
gonna push the brand. Mm,
So he might say, hey, you know what? I don't want to invest in me for people to know me,
mm.
right? But I don't mind making a rocket that's going to get people to talk about me. And the rocket's going to cost 2 million,
Yeah. Mm,
right?
mm,
So it's one way or another. I think that just because I work in this sector, I'm able to see like all the tricks that people do in order to
mm,
get the attention. You know what I
mm,
mean?
mm,
And sometimes people pay other people for ideas on how they can do it. So they might seem like, oh, this person's super creative, but the reality is that they're paying someone to say, hey, you know what, this is what you're going to do today. This is what you're going to do today. This is what you're going to do today. And
yeah.
they might not call it personal branding,
Mm, mm,
but it's basically going into the same category of they're
mm,
trying to raise their name. So
mm,
anytime you're trying to raise your name or your business's name
mm,
over a sale, right? You're just saying, hey, if more people know me, I'm going to get more sales. That is a
mm.
personal
That's
brand or that is a branding
that's the
tactic.
brand. It's like the Think Different campaign. I mean, Steve Jobs was called a genius for that. A company was hired, sat down, spent weeks in developing that. Coming up with that idea.
Yeah.
Which ties into what you were saying. So one of the things that great companies do when it comes to branding is they invest heavily into the brand. Is there anything else that people are not paying attention to when it comes to great branding?
The only other thing that I can think of is that they don't align with what they want to be seen with, right? And what I mean by that is if you say you want to be seen as a public speaker, right?
Mm,
Your daily postings, your daily things that people see you with, right? Don't represent that you are a public speaker.
mm,
So go out and get public speaking engagements, right?
mm,
So a lot of times it'll be like, okay, well, how can I pay somebody to make my brand look like I am a public speaker?
mm.
It's like, well, don't pay me. Go
Don't
get
pay.
public,
Go get public.
go get public speaking engagements. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I can't. What am I gonna do for you, right? And
Mm,
I have told people that before in the past, right? Like, there's certain people that might go, hey, can you manage my TikTok? I'm like, that's not what that is. You know, that
mm.
is you creating videos. Like unless I'm there with you every day, I
Every day.
can't do that
Like
for
yeah.
you, you know?
Mm,
So I think that that's the part that people miss is like what you want to be seen as might require you to do the work,
mm,
right? You can't just keep paying people. Yes, invest heavily in your own brand, but you just
mm,
can't keep paying other people to do stuff for you. At some
mm,
point, you have to invest in yourself. So
mm,
I guess in a different way, like invest heavily money we've already talked about.
mhm,
Don't forget to invest heavily time. You
mm.
can't expect your brand to grow without your time,
Without your
which is
time.
actually a big problem that I had with the owner that we talked about in the first
Mm,
scenario where he hated the business, blah blah blah, and he wanted it to grow.
mm,
He wanted it to grow, but he just wouldn't invest time. It
mm,
was minimal time into the business, right?
mm,
And when you are the one that's running the ship, whether it's your personal brand or it's your business brand, if you're
mm.
not investing time into it, Elon Musk might not like that he has to create some stupid truck. He might hate that truck,
Yeah.
right? He might really like it. He might really hate it, but he
Mm,
knows he has to do it. And it's
mm,
going to take his time in order for him to say, because if somebody's like, hey, look, here's a truck. And he's like, dude, perfect. Throw it out, right? It's
mm,
not going to do well. He knows that he has to look at it and tweak it and it has to be his design.
mm.
Or else if it fails, he's not going to be able to live with himself.
Oh wow, wow. Everything someone said that someone really smart said that when we're trying to look into the future, life doesn't always connect. But when we look back, we start to see the patterns and connections. And you're a patterns guy, right? And it really comes back for you is the be more, do more, have more. You know, and do you think of it in that sequence?
Yeah, I think of it in a sequence that I can do anything I want if I really tried hard enough.
Mm,
If I wanted to go to the NBA, I honestly feel that I could. I probably wouldn't dunk, but I
mm.
might be doing what Steph Curry did. You know what I mean? Shooting
Yeah.
threes way back, you know? But it's a matter of just, it seems impossible. Like somebody might be listening to this and be like, this guy's stupid. He would never go to the NBA, right?
Mm,
But with that attitude, I wouldn't.
mm.
with my attitude, I might,
You might, yeah.
right?
Mm,
And I've had people, I there's a very twisted way that the world works, right? Like if
mm,
you want to win, you have to play the game type of thing.
mm,
And my ideology that some people agree with and a lot of people don't agree with is you are what you are perceived as. So you may think you're a winner, but if you're perceived as a loser, the world will
the
treat
world
you
will
as a
treat you as a
loser.
loser.
And most people don't want to agree with that. They want to say,
Mm.
no, I'm a winner. My mommy told me I'm a winner. My dad told me I'm a winner. I'm a winner, right? Doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Like you'll
No matter.
lose your entire life unless you can change the perception of who you are.
Mm,
And I'm not saying that in a way of like, a lot of people pay, 7 grand to get on Forbes, right?
mm,
Cool. If that's your way of doing it and making yourself feel like a winner, that's great. But I'm
mm,
talking about go out there and actually do stuff,
mm,
right? One of the things that we're doing right now is we're throwing an event in El Paso. I've never been to El Paso, right? I knew 2 people that would help me in the beginning.
mm,
That now is 20 people that are posting about the event every day.
mm,
So we went from 2 to 20. And the only way that I knew that this event was going to work is if that I kept the like, we're going to do it. The 70 seats are going to get filled. It's
mm,
going to happen no matter what. We'll meet the right people. I'll call people. I'll get on the phones. We'll whatever we have to do, we will get it done.
mm,
It's only when you have that mentality of I am what the world perceives me as
mm.
that things will change. So I needed the world to perceive me as a winner. So I needed to win.
So you
And
needed to win.
until you can do
Mm,
that, nothing will change.
mm. And so for you, your approach to perception is not, it's not try to create it, is to be it, so that whatever you do becomes an overpouring of that of like that, your perception becomes you, basically.
Correct. Yeah.
Mm,
I mean, you can buy it, you can try to take a shortcut, but ultimately do it.
Like
Be it.
don't just look like you're winning. Go and actually do something, no matter how small. Do something and win in that.
Yeah,
Mm,
exactly.
So there are a couple of definitions over the years on branding, right? I'm gonna throw them at you. I have about maybe 7 of them. Short words, and
Yeah.
you would just say what you think about them, right? So one of them says branding is about consistency. What do you think about that?
That's a part of it.
That's a part of it. Okay.
That's a part of
So
it.
branding is about creating perception.
Also a part of it, right?
Mhm.
Like creativeness comes with branding and it is demanded from branding, right?
Mm,
You have to outdo yourself creatively a lot.
mm,
But if you're only creative, it will only allow you to win in one aspect, which isn't being creative, which I don't think is enough.
is enough. Branding is about feeling, about how you make people feel.
No, it's even in sales, right? Like
Mm,
when do you close a sale? It's when the person actually trusts you, not when they feel something towards you.
mm,
So I
mm.
think branding is more on trust. Can you
So
enable
more on
trust?
trust, yes. Which was going to be the next one. Branding is about building trust.
That yeah, I mean it's a big thing. It's about establishing trust, right? Like
Mm,
again, it comes to you being the only resource. Like I, well, maybe it's a little bit different to me, but I believe
mhm,
that brand is competitive
mm,
and you don't want to compete.
mm. Brand is competitive and you don't want to compete.
So you start branding and you'll start competing with everybody else.
Mm,
But I think the greatest brands are the ones that don't compete. I
mm.
think that when we say, "Hey, who makes cola?" we say Coke, not Pepsi. Even
Not
though
bad.
Pepsi's great, we think of
Mm,
Pepsi, but
yeah.
it's Coke. You
Coke.
know?
Which brings us to the next one that says branding is about differentiation.
Yes, 100%
100%.
uniqueness.
Yes, prehistorically, you talked about the meta with with the insignia in it and all of that
Yes.
stuff. So people had cows or slaves or anything. They wanted to mark those things in the world, and they'll put in hot fire or coal and put the mark so they can always to set differentiation.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
if it was too similar, that would start a fight. You
that
know?
was satisfying. Yes. Okay, so branding is about stories, beliefs, and values.
Yes.
Mm. So
Yeah. Still a little short, but yes.
Yes. Yes. I like that you just went, yes. Like that's it. Okay, so
It's
branding is
closer.
about what?
I said it's closer.
It's closer. So branding is about how you exist distinctively in the minds and hearts of people.
That yes, that is a
Yeah.
great one. That is a great one because that is truth. I
Mm,
think that one puts all three of the ones that I have said together
mm.
because it says if you are perceived as a loser, you will be treated as a
You'll be
loser.
it's
If you're perceived as a winner, you will be perceived as a winner. And if
mm,
in the minds of the people you are someone who is worth $1,000, you will be worth $1,000. Which
mm,
is again, marketing, sales, branding, it all goes back together. And when you lose a sale, right? We all know this, and anybody that's been in sale, it's that you have not perceived enough value in order for the person to make a decision. So if you say $300, they're like, this is only worth 150, you'll not get the sale.
mm,
It's just how it works.
mm,
So it's like there's a few ways that you can do to make that person buy. It's like, okay, it's 300. They're like, no, it's not worth it to me. Okay, well, what if I add this? And now you get closer to that threshold, they end up buying.
yeah,
So in that mind of the person, like you said, it's how you're perceived in that person's mind. If you are
mm,
perceived as $300, you will get $300
yeah,
for your service. If you are
$300.
perceived as number one, you will be number one forever.
And charging more seems to be something that is important to you. I'm sure there's a story there. Why is that important?
Because I've never been the person that wants the pennies.
Mm,
I feel like there's too many people that are fighting for the pennies, right? So like I come in and whether it be me, you, my clients, whoever it is, and you say, hey, you know what, like I have this service and I know my threshold to live per month and it's 4,000 a month.
mm,
And you know what, I can either work with 4 people or I can work with 8 people,
mm,
right? 8 people is twice as much work. And where this actually comes from is when I was working with that boss, I was
mm,
getting a commission of $50 per every unit that I sold.
mm,
And this was a different one from the main one. It was like a side project of his, but I
yeah.
was making $50 commissions. And in 1 month, I sold 60 products.
Mm,
So I got $3,000, right? To
mm,
me, I was like, yes,
mm,
$3,000. My life is going to change. It's great.
mm,
I got a coach and he's like, dude, if you made 60 sales of a 10,000 or a $1,000 product, what would you have gotten for the month? And I'm like 60 grand. And he's like, then why aren't you doing that? I'm like, dude,
mm.
absolutely right. It took me back to the Google days, right? Like those people are making more than me and I know I can do it. So
Mm,
I knew I could sell. I knew I could do $1,000 product. Why am I not selling $1,000 product?
yeah,
You really quickly come to realize if you want to sell anything by 1,000 to 2,000 to 10,000, you
mm,
need a killer brand. You
mm,
need trust.
mm. And a killer brand for you, just to reiterate all the things you said, a killer brand for you is what? Trust,
Winning.
winning.
It's winning.
Mm.
If you can't win, your customers don't think that you'll be able to make them win.
Mm. Okay, that's a good one there. If you can't win, or if they're not seeing, we talked about their own perception, right? So if they're not seeing you as winning, they don't think you will be able to make them win.
Yeah, I mean, let's go back to the snow example, right? You see a product no one's ever seen before.
Mm,
You see it in your mouth, you start thinking, oh, dude, it's gonna give me it's gonna, mess up my
mm,
teeth, they're gonna
yeah.
fall out, all this stuff, right? Then you see one of the Jenners doing it, which you might not like them, right? But you're like,
Mm.
dude, they would never risk their teeth. You start thinking all these things. There's credibility behind it,
Mm,
right? Like, so they see you win. They
mm,
see the product win,
mm,
right?
mm,
Elon Musk. Oh, I'm gonna make spaceships and go into space. No one can go into space except for NASA, right?
mm,
He got into space, like
mm.
so now people are like, he's legitimate because he actually got into it.
Yeah,
If he stayed on
yeah.
the planet the whole time, there'd be a problem. But
Mm,
it's what it comes down to. If you can't win, people won't think that you can do anything for them.
mm, mm. So at the end of the day, it's about winning.
Every great brand stands behind the same thing, which is my product can make you happier, it can make you more money, it can make you more time. But it's because you see other people using it, it's because you see other people enjoying it, it's because you see other people winning.
Basically, my product can make you win, and here's how we know, because it's making us and every other person that has used it win. Wow. And so for you, you're very concerned with great products and great products and great businesses.
Yes.
Yes. Are they typically, are you biased towards the kind of business you like to work with?
I like manufacturers.
Yes.
I like manufacturers. I
Yes.
one day want to make my own product, so I think that that's why.
Mm,
I think that there's something very special about introducing something into the world
mm,
that people can use. And I
mm,
think it started with basically Henry Ford, right? With the
mhm,
car.
mm,
I just went over this on another podcast that I did recently. But basically, if you think about it right now, let's say me or you, we don't have a lot of resources, right? We basically came from nothing.
mm.
And we say, hey, right now in this moment, I'm not because Elon Musk, he had money when he started his rockets, right? He had
Yes.
already PayPal money.
Yes.
But right now, in our current conditions, we say, I'm gonna make a rocket. I'm gonna make a rocket. We're gonna go to Uranus on a rocket, right?
On the
You'd be
rocket.
like,
Yeah.
this dude's absolutely crazy. You'd think I'm
Mm,
insane.
mm,
Henry Ford at the time, there were no cars. He's
mm,
like, I'm gonna make a car.
mm.
And he did. And it's insane to think about in the terms of what it would be today
Today.
that he made a car
Mm.
with little resources, no connections, no
Connections.
money, no
Mm,
nothing,
mm,
made a freaking car.
mm.
So I've always had a lot of respect for people who make products.
Who make products? Yes, yes, absolutely. I come from this a design world as well, so I like just feel experiencing products. I think that's something we can never take away from people.
Yeah, I mean the people who created guitars, you know what I mean? Like the
Mm,
airplane, like you created something that stayed forever, which is
forever.
just insane to think about.
Mm, mm. What products are you looking at? What direction are you looking at?
I like electronics, man. Like
Yeah.
I had a problem buying electronics. I'm reviewing electronics now. I think eventually I'm gonna create something that's speaker, camera,
Mm,
headphone based. What I noticed is that in my channel, the videos that get the most views
mm,
are the headphones, and it seems to bring a lot of happiness to people.
mm,
Music, obviously, we know brings a lot of happiness to people, but headphones specifically
mm,
is something that people put in their ears. There's a touch, there's a feel to it.
mm,
There's like an excitement about it, especially with
mm,
the names. Like I don't know if you know Skull Candy, how they've been making headphones for a long time. People are excited with that company because we've been using them since high school, right? And now
mm,
they're still around and they're making wireless ones where before they were $5 headphones that you
mm.
would plug into your phone and put them in and they would
Yeah.
break and you'd go buy more, Now
Yeah.
they're still around and you're buying them and they're wireless, so there's an excitement with all these things, right? Like music and nostalgia. And
Mm,
I think that there's an easy way for me to be able to start there and bring some happiness to people based on those core values.
mm. One of the beautiful things about, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted us to have this conversation today, is that most people talk about stuff, right? But you and I, we have to build things. Like we have
Yeah.
we have to. I mean, the talking is the fun. It's fun. Like, especially from the world we come from. Like you have to speak. Like you have to be able to speak and communicate. But some people get lost in that, right? But with not just being able to communicate, that we also believe in building something. Where did that come from for you? Like, how did you develop that?
God, I think I just get so impatient. I think that that's
Mm,
what it is. Impatience, right? But the biggest thing that I think anybody can do, like if you're listening right now and you're like, "Oh, what can I do?" is
mm,
find all your weaknesses and make them into strengths somehow.
mm,
Right. So like for me, social media was a really, really big weakness. I would spend way too much time on. I'm like, how can I make money on it? Ooh, boom, social media management company, right? Like stay on social
mm.
media, but now I'm making money on it. I
Yeah.
spend too much on electronics. How can I make a YouTube channel and I write off every single purchase, right?
Mm,
And so impatience for me was like, dude, okay, if I'm impatient, how can I translate that into business? Because people are impatient and they want their stuff quick.
mm,
So even with this event in El Paso, right, people would take like 10, 8 months, right, like planning it or whatever.
mm,
We started talking about it. When was it? June 15th.
mm,
Is we started talking about it June 8th. June
mm,
15th, we announced it,
mm,
and it's on July 15th.
mm.
And I've never been to El Paso. So it's one of those things where I'm impatient. I'm like, dude, we should run an event. And
Mm,
people are telling me, hey, there's no live events right now because of COVID,
mm,
right? And the only events are, in the next town over, and 80 to 100 people are showing up right now. So people are desperate to do these.
mm,
And I'm like, okay, cool, cool, cool. And then I'm like, okay, maybe in July. And then people are like, okay, so are we doing one? And I was like, oh, July and August. And then somebody asked me again. And I was like, that's 3 times. Boom, let's do it. July 15th, and we'll get it done.
Wow. And I mean, my next question would be, how can people best connect with you? But you're everywhere, right? But the people that want to work with you, like, how can they connect with you in that way to get to work with you?
Yeah, my business is called The Marketing Hunters.
Mm,
So if you want to connect with me on like business, it would be themarketinghunters.com.
mm,
If they just want to talk, like I said, personal brand for me is not a big deal. If you just want like tips and pointers and like a free 30-minute call on that, it's rubenalvarez.com, which is just my name, which I'm super happy about. And I know you can appreciate this.
yes.
I got my name domain out of pure luck for $12 at an auction with GoDaddy because somebody had just forgot to bought it
Forgot.
to buy it.
Yes. Oh, yes. There's a domain right now I'm waiting for. I'm just waiting for the guy to forget.
Yeah,
Just, he misses.
exactly.
I check. I check periodically. Please miss one payment. Please
Yeah,
just
exactly.
forget or what something.
Yeah.
All right, it's great to have you here, man. Like, what would you leave us with? In terms of branding and all of the things we've talked about. What would you leave us with? Maybe not
Great.
even in branding, but what would you leave us with?
Yeah, no. I mean, it's a great question. I haven't talked too much about this lately, but there is the thing of being able to just manifest what you obsess over.
Hmm.
So I think that just because we've kind of inundated the talk with branding and marketing and everything, we can leave it with this.
Hmm.
When I started at 24, no, sorry, I think 25 is when I started as a sales manager. I just kept thinking, like, what if I was the best sales manager, right? If people respected me, what would that look like?
What would that
And
look
then I
like?
embodied that daily, right? And then I saw an office in the corner and I was like, dude, the owner didn't want us to go back there. And I'm like, if I really wanted that office, what would I do? And I'm like, I would talk to him
Hmm.
and then start selling and then talk to him and then I basically got that office.
Hmm.
Same thing with the business. So very, very important. Just think exactly what you want. Like, you might not be that person right now, but think,
Hmm.
if I was that person right now today, what would that look
What would
like?
that
What would
look
I
like?
talk like? What would I speak? Who would I be speaking with? Would I still have lunch by myself? Would I have lunch with others? Would I take them out? Would I pay? Ask all those questions. And if you know the answer to them, just go out and do those
Good.
things.
I'm start being those things.
Yep. And you will have everything you want.
And in some ways, it also ties back into branding, because branding is almost manifestation. Like, you have to
Yes.
almost be before it becomes. Right, right,
Yes.
right.
Which is difficult. Not fake it till you make it, but
Not
believe
fake
it
it
till
till you
you
make it,
see
but
it.
yeah, yeah. Hmm. Wow, it's great to have you here, man. Thank you very much for coming today, and let's connect again soon. It's amazing to have you.
Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, welcome.